morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 675 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Monday, June 23rd, 2025. And as you can see by the sun on my face, it's a gorgeous day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corbin Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Got a packed show for you today. But before we go any further, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health doing today, sir?
I think I'm doing pretty good. Had a doctor's appointment Friday morning, and we went over some stuff regarding both my mental health and my physical health. I have to go in for some x-rays and some ultrasound for my shoulder. But, oops, sorry. Very clumsy. I had told him how I fall asleep very easily, but I can't stay asleep. So he suggested augmenting my medication by taking it in the evening instead of in the morning for my anti-anxiety, antidepressant. So I've started doing that, and I think it's going to start to work. It's only been Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so 3 days. So it'll take a little while for the body gets caught up to it. But I think it might start to make the difference, because I did wake up a few times last night, but I was able to fall back to sleep quickly. So this may be the cure for my inability to stay asleep. We'll see. Time will tell. It may or may not work. He suggested that we give this a go for a few weeks, and if it works, great. And if not, we'll look at something else. So yeah, I'm sleeping a little bit better. So that helps with mental health, of course, because your body has time to rest and recover. And it does take a bit of catching up to do, because you've completely changed your cycle around, which sounds funny coming from a man, but it's true. And as a result, I found the last couple of days I've been very drowsy throughout the day. But as time marches on, I should be able to adjust to that pretty quickly. So yeah, I think all things being equal, the mental health is pretty good today.
All right. For me, mental health is good, but sleeping has not been a problem for me the past few days, because I went and got my COVID booster over the course of the weekend. And yesterday, my Beaver Sweetie was out of town. I thought, okay, well, I've got like 9 hours of quiet and uninterrupted. I'm going to be able to be super productive. It knocked the stuffing out of me.
Oh, yeah?
I slept all day. Pretty much, well, not all night, because I'd slept pretty much all day. But even though I had slept all day, like I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and by 11 a.m., 4 hours, I had a bowl of cereal, read 4 newspaper articles, and that's it.
Mm.
I could I read like a quarter of an article, and then I need to lie down now.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So, and I still, even though I didn't sleep the whole night because I slept pretty much the whole day, I still slept some last night after sleeping the entire day. And I'm still hot and clammy and
Mm.
blah, and like
Some days
really slow up here.
some days I find I'm tired just from getting up. Get up. Oh, I gotta lie down. I just got up. No, I still gotta lie down.
So, uh, I was, I went to bed last night and I'm thinking like, I don't even have a show for tomorrow because I didn't get to read anything. And then, you know,
And nothing happened this weekend anyway.
yeah, exactly, right? And I was up earlier than normal today, so I was going through stuff, and it's like, "Oh my god, yeah, no, a lot happened actually." So I no problem having a show. And I had actually because Saturday, before I got the shot, I was busy. So, it's like, oh, I realized, oh, yeah, that's everything that happened Friday and Saturday. Okay, it's just Sunday I don't really remember.
Um,
Mr. Grizzly, you have a couple of, things because it was a busy weekend in the nation's capital.
Yeah, this weekend we had, and I only attended one of the events, but there were 4 major events in Ottawa this weekend because it was National Indigenous Peoples Day. It was also a summer solstice event at Wesley Clover Parks in Canada, which is the west end of town, for those of you who might not be aware of Ottawa. It's an equestrian park, and they had a huge festival there. I did not attend because, well, I'm severely allergic to horses,
Ooh.
and all of the stuff in the field I'm also allergic to, so it's like, yeah, this won't be enjoyable for so I did not attend that, and then Mooney's Bay Dragon Boat Festival, which I usually
Uh-huh.
pop into because I
Yeah.
used to compete in that for
Right.
years. But since tearing my shoulder in 2017, I don't compete anymore, and I didn't I don't know. Saturday, was up early, took Lola out, had breakfast, and got ready to go. I was like, "I'm gonna go down to the thing," and I'm like, "Oh, I'll just do a couple of things around the house first." And I was like, "I need to lie down out cold for 2 hours."
Hmm.
Out cold for and I think it might have to do with switching my medication around. I don't know, but I was
Hmm.
out cold for 2 hours, so I woke up and I took Lola out for 3 hours, and it's like I'm not gonna go all the way down to Mooney's Bay with her because it's a long walk,
Yep.
and I Uber Pet is expensive, so we just stuck around the neighborhood and visited with friends and people and had a good time. But the other thing that had also occurred, so we had Mooney's Bay, we had in National Indigenous Peoples Day, we had the Escapade EDM Music Festival that took place on the grounds of the RA Center, right on the banks of the Rideau River,
Right.
next to Billings Bridge Shopping Center, which is easy to get to because it's a major transit hub.
Right.
So that took place, and of course, there were noise complaints galore, but they actually had a noise exemption. They could play music from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m., and as long as they kept it under 65 dB when you get into a neighborhood, because
Right.
you're not super close to neighborhoods there.
Right.
Yeah, there was complaints, but they're not in violation.
Yeah. Because
Good.
usually there's a lot of bass there.
Yeah, well,
Those
it's
things, right?
house music, right?
Yeah.
EDM, so Avicii,
House music all night long.
Kygo.
House music all night long.
So and somebody says, "Why don't you go?" And I'm like, "Well, I would be the grandfather of half the people there."
Yep.
And I see them, getting ready to go, and you'll see the unique costumes that the men and women wear when they go. It's like, "Oh, yeah, they're going to Escapade. Yeah, no problem." And then, of course, the other event we had on this weekend that just kicked off was Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
And I was so tempted last night to go see Questlove from the
Oh,
Roots.
yes.
Yeah, he was playing just up the street here. 10:45 p.m. was the start time, though.
Mm.
That's awful late for me.
Yep. Yep.
On a school night. And I thought he plays Ottawa frequently, though.
Yes, he does.
He's here a lot. He likes it here. So, and he said as much. He likes playing here. So
It's a
I'll
very
see him.
knowledgeable community in Ottawa for jazz.
That's the thing. So he'll come back. It's not a big deal. He'll be back at some point in time. But yeah, I wanted to go, but it was like 10:45. Oof. And then I look at the budget and I'm like, I think I'll just sit it out. I can't afford it.
Mhm.
Gary Clark Jr. is playing on Wednesday. I'd love to go
Ooh.
see it, but I don't think I can afford him. I've seen him before. He's an amazing
Yes.
blues player, but he plays blues and jazz and rock and you name it. He's just they call him the heir to the throne, or the next one, because he's from Austin, Texas, Stevie Ray Vaughan's hometown.
Right.
So they're saying he's the heir to the throne for Stevie Ray, and his style is quite different. But man, can this guy play? If you get a chance, go see him. So Wednesday night, Gary Clark Jr. will be playing at the Jazz Fest. just up the street from me. That's the part that kills me. It's like it's right there. I could go stand by the fence and listen,
Right.
which maybe I'll do. I don't know.
Well, speaking of jazz, the former U.S. ambassador to Canada, Mr. Bruce Hamans,
Mhm.
probably the best ambassador they ever sent us, was really, really happy because he was going to see Diana Krall in concert a
And
couple
she's
days
in,
ago.
I don't think she's in the Jazz Fest, though, is she?
No, she's not in the Jazz Fest.
Oh, okay.
No,
I
no,
was
no.
thinking,
He's the former ambassador,
yeah.
right? So he's in the States. So he was stateside, but he was like bragging, yeah, like going to see Diana Krall. Hey, Canada.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
it's like enjoy the show because she's really good in concert. If you've never had a chance to see her, she's
Still
just
haven't seen her live. I have several of her recordings, but I've not seen her live.
just the live shows are just great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not like she's jumping up on the stage or whatnot. She's Diana Krall. She's
Jazz.
pretty chill and cool, right?
Jazz.
But it's just the whole vibe.
Mhm.
Everybody in that room is just they're all there for her, like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and she gives back. So it's really nice. Um, so yeah, and then there was something else you mentioned that. Oh yes, um, unfortunately, there's a little bit of sad news. John McCallum, if people remember him, was a minister in, I believe, uh, mostly Chrétien's government, maybe a little
Mhm.
bit in Trudeau's as well. Passed away.
Yeah, he
At
was only 75. It sounds funny when you get to a certain age and you say, he was only 75. Well, that's only 18 years away from me. So, yeah, he was only 75. That's still not that old.
Exactly. Former ambassador of to China as well. Um, but yeah, passed away. Uh, referred to as a veteran of good humor and grace.
Mm.
Said. So this was confirmed by his family. A statement said he passed away peacefully Saturday, surrounded by family, survived by his wife Nancy and 3 sons and 6 grandchildren. Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday called McCallum an inspiration, a mentor, and a friend. Quote, John served Canada and academia with great distinction, helping us to find solutions to our biggest economic challenges, devoting his invaluable insights to the service of Canada's democracy and diplomacy, and always doing so with good humor and grace. His career spanned decades of public service and private sector achievements, earning him respect from politicians on both sides of the aisle. He was first elected to the House of Commons to represent the Greater Toronto Area riding of Markham in 2000 and went on to serve as a cabinet minister for 3 different Liberal prime ministers. His portfolios included national defense, veterans affairs and immigration, refugees, and citizenship. His time in politics was followed by a career that included stints as the chief economist at the Royal Bank of Canada and the dean of arts at McGill University. He headed up the faculty at the same time his future boss, Justin Trudeau, was actually a student there. The former prime minister issued a social media post on Sunday in which he called McCallum, quote, a friend who helped Canada navigate, quote, some of its most challenging times. Quote, I will never forget how, as a cabinet minister, he helped me as a new prime minister steer the government through the rapid resettlement of tens of thousands of Syrian refugees. He made it happen despite real challenges in an unpredictable time. McCallum was also Canada's ambassador to China from 2017 to 2019, but resigned at Trudeau's request after wading into controversies surrounding the arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou in Canada. McCallum's 2019 comments to Chinese language media in Canada appeared to offer credence to Wanzhou's claims that the arrest was politically motivated, running counter to the Canadian government's stated position at the time. He later said that he had misspoke. Trudeau had never offered a reason for McCallum's dismissal. Dominique Leblanc's Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs recalled in a social media post starting his career in Parliament Hill at the same time as McCallum. The pair were seatmates in the House of Commons, launching what would become a 25-year friendship that Leblanc said he would always cherish. Quote, John served his country with intelligence, dedication, and kindness. Even Conservative MP Michelle Rempel-Garner shared her memories of McCallum when she was the shadow minister, well, actually not shadow minister because those are another thing, when she was the parliamentary critic to his immigration portfolio. She said the pair formed, quote, the best type of government opposition relationship, and though they did not necessarily like each other, they had mutual respect. Quote, John respected Parliament in a way very few serving still understand. Tonight I raise a glass to him. Rest well, John. Tim Hodgson, Canada's Energy Minister and MP for Markham Thornhill, issued a statement on social media marking McCallum's legacy in the riding. Quote, he served with integrity, exemplifying the very best of Canadian values. I hope to honor that legacy by serving the people of Markham Thornhill with the same grace and dedication he brought to public life. His relatives say they remember him as a loving and kind family man with a witty sense of humor. They also thanked Credit Valley Hospital in Mississauga for his care. So, yeah, John McCallum.
Yeah. He'd been out of the spotlight for a few years now. Huh?
Yes. Yeah, since about 2019 in a way, but I mean, I think he did go to the Royal Bank afterwards, and so was, still on a business television and stuff like that during the time afterwards. Got an image here of him for those who do not remember him in here, John McCallum.
Yeah.
And in other sad news, just crossed our feed before going live, according to Merritt Stiles, who's the leader of the Ontario NDP. Quote, yesterday, our deputy leader, Saul Mamakwa's beloved wife, Pearl Mamakwa, suddenly passed away. I'm heartbroken to share this tragic news. Our hearts are with Saul, his children and grandchildren, and the community that is shaken by this unexpected loss. On behalf of the Ontario NDP, Saul's colleagues, and friends in our caucus, I'm extending my deepest condolences to Saul and his loved ones. May she rest in peace. So there's never a good time for a loved one to pass, but there are particularly bad times. And as Saul Mamakwa is leading the charge against Bill 5.
Which has been pushed through.
Yeah, and at some personal cost.
Mm-hmm.
And he got ejected from the legislature at one point for essentially insinuating that Doug Ford was lying about caring for Indigenous people. And a couple of days ago, we heard that rant from him. And then him swallowing himself whole. And he's got a statement out for National Indigenous Peoples Day out there where he's, saying a whole bunch of, saying technically the right things, but people wondering, but we just heard you a couple of days ago. And on that one, we showed the apology, and Doug Ford saying that it was passionate. I said it because I'm passionate. That wasn't passion.
No, that was
Kitty. That was your ugly on the inside popping out.
Yeah, he's cried his alligator tears before.
Yeah, because you don't get that passionate when Therm comes to you cap in hand. Do you?
Yeah.
Just saying.
And he's given almost 500 million.
Yeah, and everybody else Walmart and everybody else that's come along. So, it's not that Doug has
corporate welfare, though, is completely acceptable in white collar Canada.
Yes, it's not that Doug Ford has an issue with people coming to him cap in hand.
Yeah,
right. Just depends, I guess, on.
Didn't he just spend $16 million? No, how much money did he spend? $32 million? How much was it he spent to give us all a $200 bribe?
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yes, Mr. Mamakwa, he's dealing with a lot. Someone having to speak for the community, and then this happening. So our hearts go out to him and his family as well, and of course to the family and friends of Mr. McCallum and all those who loved him. So yeah, a little bit of sad news. All right, kits and cubs. On with the show. A lot is happening, and the big thing that happened over the course of the weekend, or just prior to the weekend, is that Bill C-5 did clear the House, and it is going to go to the Senate.
Which we have to rally the Senate and say, hey, put in more amendments.
Indeed. But so we'll talk about that. But
several of them have been addressed too, as I understand. The ones that we found that we had issue with, a lot of those have been at the committee. Apparently, they addressed a lot of those, but to what degree, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get into that. But the Prime Minister, just so people know, it's going to be a busy week as well, even though because C-5 happened and the House rose as well. Right. So the Senate is still in action, but the House has risen. But it doesn't mean that the work stops, because Prime Minister Mark Carney is touched down in Brussels on Sunday afternoon, and he's there um, for a meeting for the Canadian and Europe uh, Canadian European Summit. I'm sorry,
Relationship.
my brain's a little slow, kids and cubs, so you'll have to bear with me today.
It's a
Uh,
European Union summit here.
yeah,
He'll meet with EU presidents to deepen the Canada-EU relationship across all sectors, including diversifying trade and commerce, defending rules-based trade, and bolstering security and defense partnerships. So he's doing the important work that needs to be done with our European counterparts, who we are now having much more closer relationships with and trade deals with, and we're just. We always had, I think, oddly enough, I think we always had more in common with our European partners than
yes,
we have with our Americans. They just happen to be on our doorstep, so that was easier to trade with them. But
right.
culturally speaking and social program speaking, we have a lot more in common with our European counterparts. As simple as that.
Indeed. So he will be expected to sign a security and defense partnership pact, so the ReArm Europe Pact, that a senior EU official described as, quote, among the most wide-ranging agreements with a third country Europe has ever reached. Quote, in a briefing to Canadian European reporters on Friday, a senior European official said there will be two main outcomes from the summit: a joint statement that expresses views on global issues such as conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, as well as the signing, I mentioned again, of the EU-Canada Security and Defense Partnership Agreement, the Wire service reported last week. The agenda for the summit posted by the European Council says the Security and Defense Procurement Agreement will allow Canada to join a European loan program for joint defense projects, although Canada will have to negotiate a bilateral agreement with the European Commission to begin discussions with member states about procurement opportunities. And then later this week, Prime Minister Carney will join NATO counterparts for the much-touted NATO Summit, where everybody will be discussing moving from 2% to 5%. Again, that's not a full 5% on defense. They're proposing 3.5% on defense and 1.5% on related infrastructure, which hasn't been very clearly defined to me yet, but it seems
Mhm.
that part Canada won't have trouble reaching. We're pretty much already there based on what it is that we spend. So we'll be going from the 2 to the 3.5% on pure defense spending. That will be the biggest challenge, because right now we're going from about 1.5 to 2 in just this calendar year, trying to get an extra $9.3 billion out the door. And getting the dollars out the door has been a big issue for us. So, but they'll be talking about that. And at least when it comes to that, there's a little bit of how would I say, um, relief, I guess, with regard to that, because last week Portugal had also announced it would reach 2% by the end of the year, which makes it such that all 32 members of the alliance will now be at 2% for the end of the year. And at the start of this year, there was 8 nations of the alliance that were not there, according to Secretary General Mark Rutte. So all 8 of those nations have decided in this year that they would reach the 2%. Canada will get there 11 years after making the commitment initially. And the Secretary General also applauded Canada's idea of joining the ReArm Europe movement in order to develop the defense industrial base. He says that within 5 years, Russia might have the capabilities to attack NATO. So it's really important that we raise that amount. And so did the former Secretary General Rasmussen in an interview, stating that this was probably important in making the same claim that Russia, which should have the capability to directly attack a NATO country relatively soon. He also expressed concerns about China's growing military capabilities, and therefore, if we might have to protect ourselves on more than one front, it might be all the more important that we get there.
Mhm.
The Secretary General did not express dismay at the fact that he did not get to meet um, Trump at the G7 in Kananaskis, because there was going to be plenty of opportunities for them to meet, just a week and a half later or so at the summit. With regard to that, Ukraine's going to be on the docket, and Canada announced an extra during the G7. Canada had announced an extra $2 billion for military equipment like drones and ammunition and armored vehicles for Ukraine, and an extra $3.3 billion of loans for the government to help rebuild infrastructure and public systems, as well as the new sanctions package on Russia. So with all of that, uh, Canada is going into the NATO meeting on pretty good standing, but of course, we're just getting to that 2%, and now we're looking to talk about 3.5, and that there are some nations that are already there, right? Like Poland is already there, and Germany is pretty much made it very clear that they will be arriving there. But there are other nations like Spain, for example, who are just sort of saying, 5%, really? You
Well,
sure? Because
Spain's got people within the government who's like, we got to get the hell out of NATO because we're going to get dragged into a war with Iran and Israel and the U.S. and we want no part of this. And there was a minister of, I can't remember. I was ranting about this yesterday. And I listened to what she had to say, and I can't disagree with what she said. She says there's 2 countries involved in this war that have nuclear weapons, Israel and the U.S. The U.S. is the only one to ever use a nuclear weapon.
right,
Iran does not have nukes.
right.
So who's the good guy in all of this is the question.
One has to answer now. We can't forget that Iran is in the region,
Mhm.
the biggest state sponsor of terrorism.
Correct.
So I mean,
We're not
there
giving them a pass.
there are no angels.
No.
I
No.
remember reading something saying, like this, when America leads with strength against tyrants and stuff like that. And it's like, do you realize that all 4 nations involved with this are led by tyrants right now?
Yes.
It's like,
I mean, come on.
Israel's led by a tyrant. The United States is led by a tyrant. Iran is led by a tyrant, and Russia, who's in the back.
Russia, yeah.
Russia's in the background, who's a really good friend with Iran, and Iran has been supplying Russia with drones for what it's doing in Ukraine, is a tyrant.
Yeah.
So there are no angels here. It's like the tyrants are all at war with each other. I was like, and I just want to go like, not our circus, man.
Well, and what Linda points out, Trump could easily invoke Article 5 if Iran attacks anything U.S. related after all his dissing of NATO. And it's not incorrect because they have so many bases built around that area. One rocket launch on any of them, and that's it. We're in.
Yep. So over the first 3 months of this year, about $23 to $24 billion have been pledged to support Ukraine by all NATO members, which is a bigger amount than the first 3 months of all last year. So that's good. That's good. All right. So the Prime Minister.
Well, just before we get to that, I wanted to share an image for you real quick because it relates to what we just spoke about. Thought I would share this image.
Yes.
It's just a picture of Kamala Harris saying, if we elect Trump, we will be at war within 6 months.
Okay. People were saying the same about her as well. And, well, guess what? Trump, ever the overachiever, did it in 5.
Yeah. So for those of you who are of different generation than myself, hey, millennials and Zoomers, or Gen Z, who are dealing with your first bout of World War III panic, find yourself a Gen X friend to see you through it. We spent the entirety of our childhoods prepping for nuclear war alone while eating Pop-Tarts cold from the foil. We got you. Yeah.
Yes. I think we were taught to hide under our desk.
Well, our parents were taught that too.
Yes.
Duck and cover. They actually went. So I remember when
Duck and cover.
a Canadian documentary film called "If You Love This Planet," which won an Oscar in 1983, I believe, 83 or 84, was all about nuclear Armageddon. And that film said, "Duck and cover does nothing. It might make you feel good for 2 minutes, but it won't protect you from anything." So yeah, Gen X is well versed on this sort of thing.
Yeah, it was 1982, and If You Love This Planet was a National Film Board production, by the way. Again, go Canada. All right, kids and cubs. So C5 cleared the House, and it's a big event because it is a signature policy and signature plank of the platform of this current government. And as you know, there are some controversies around it, as we mentioned before over the course of the week. I think my personal stance. I'm not particularly happy with the process Even though the goals, I support the goals and the objectives, I'm not particularly happy with the process. Now, a lot of people say, again, we've heard all the things, well, they were elected to do this, and this was, I understand they were elected to do that, but they weren't elected to do it any which way.
Mhm.
And I'm a big believer that good process is not more or less important than the end result, but just as important. So how you get there is just as important as actually getting there. I'm also not clear after all of the amendments, and I am clearer on the amendments. And thank you, those of you in the audience of the DAMFAM who referred us to the National Observer article. Was able to go read it and found out more. I'm still not sure if there's that thing in it that ultimately at the end that says that even though there's all of this, um, it still relies up onto one person who can say, yeah, those environmental rules, yeah, we're not going to do that this time.
Mhm.
So I have the feeling that that's still there. And to me, that's a problem still.
The Liberal
Um,
committee members opposed these changes, and the Conservatives abstained.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that some of these conservatives in their strong leadership, um,
Didn't even bother to show up.
well, not show up. They
Yeah.
were there, but they decided, you know what, we're not going to take a position on this one. We'll just abstain and let it happen. And it's like, oh, yeah, thanks.
Kind of the same as not being there, though. I mean, really,
Yeah,
we're not going to voice anything about this. We're just gonna, you know.
but it's like it, it suits them well, but they don't want to be seen voting yes on it so that nobody can bop them on the nose with a rolled up newspaper later on saying, you voted yes for this. So, but knowing it will pass. So it's a de facto yes, right? They just don't want to get any of the dirt on their hands.
Mhm.
So again, from a party that keeps on presenting itself as a government in waiting, not wanting to take a leadership and owning their decision,
Pretty
it
weak.
doesn't inspire confidence. I mean, Mark Carney, say what you want, and I'll like this as much as I'm not happy about the process, he's owning it.
Mhm. Yeah.
But the conservatives are just like, yeah, let's just not record this vote.
Well, that was the same thing very much with Pierre Trudeau. You might not like what he was saying. You might not like what he proposed, but he owned it. He owned
Yeah,
it.
he
You
did.
knew he was the man in charge. There
Right.
was no mistaking it. He didn't politic, right? And because Mark Carney is very diplomatic, because he's a businessman and a banker, he's not a politician, not a seasoned politician. He's a politician now, but I mean, only for the last, since what?
6 months or so.
Yeah, barely
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
So he's going to do things quite a bit differently. And he's 60 years old. So you don't turn on a dime and suddenly start listening to sycophants and consultants who tell you the things that you want to hear. He's going to say, "Tell me the things I don't want to hear."
Hmm.
I don't think he's the kind of guy to say, puff up my ego. I
Yeah.
think he's more of the guy who said, "No, tell me what people are saying. I want the truth."
Yeah. But he's also, if I'm asking you to tell me what they're saying, you better be prepared and have the full information,
Yeah,
or I will rake you over the coals.
I will find out, and you
Yeah.
will pay.
So, according to the National Observer, Federal Standing Committee on Transport, Infrastructure, and Communities passed 23 amendments to Bill C5, and so it makes it better.
Hmm.
It does make it better. Along with removing federal barriers to internal trade, Bill C5 would allow the federal cabinet to conditionally approve projects it deems, quote, in the national interest before regulatory processes take place and enable cabinet to exempt those projects from many laws and regulations. If passed in its original form, the bill would also empower Cabinet to override any laws passed by Parliament, like the Criminal Code or Species at Risk Act, for example. Some of that power has been curtailed after opposition MPs carved out some exclusions and checks on the powers it would afford the federal government, but Bloc Québécois MP Xavier Barcelou Duval is not satisfied. Quote, the bill is less problematic than it was, but it's still not a good bill for sure. It's not a good deal for the environment and Canada, which is kind of really interesting to see a Bloc Québécois MP say it's not a good deal for Canada.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. The Bloc and Conservatives amended the bill to curtail Cabinet's power, naming 16 laws the federal government could not override. And with that, kits and cubs, the list that I read on Friday, it seems that all of them passed. So just to go over them with you, it's the 16 that were exempt. I think it was, let's see, yep, were the Access to Information Act, the Canada Elections Act, the Conflict of Interest Act, the Criminal Code, the Foreign Influence Transparency and Accountability Act, the Investment Canada Act, the Lobbying Act, the Official Languages Act, the Use of French in Federally Regulated Private Business Act, the Indian Act, the Auditor General Act, that one's pretty important, the Extractive Sector Transparency Measures Act, the Railway Safety Act, the Trades Union Act, the Explosives Act, and the Hazardous Products Act. But every other act that's passed can be overridden. And that leaves a lot of them, kits and cubs.
Quite a bit, yeah. I mean, this is a good list. It's not long enough.
Yeah. The NDP and Green Party also opposed Bill C5, but only the Bloc Québécois gets a vote at committee meetings because the other two parties don't have official status. That didn't stop Green Party leader Elizabeth May from attending virtually to speak to her amendments. No NDP MP was present for the clause-by-clause debate and votes. Another amendment passed by the Bloc Québécois and Conservatives prevents the governments from designating projects for fast-tracking when Parliament is prorogued or dissolved. Good, because that can't be snuck through. Environmental lawyers, including West Coast Environmental Law's Anna Johnston, criticized the bill for lacking transparency. Opposition MPs made some gains on this with a series of amendments that will require more information about listed projects to be made public in a timely manner. Many of these amendments, particularly those that increase transparency, are a step in the right direction and could, quote, go a long way towards improving government accountability to voters, Johnston told Canada's National Observer in an emailed statement. However, Cabinet would still get sweeping powers to declare when and for whom laws apply, which is troubling, she said. Additionally, now, if a project has not been substantially started within 5 years of being listed, the document expires, according to a Bloc amendment. Prime Minister Mark Carney has said no project will be imposed on a province, but this is not spelled out in the bill, and the Bloc Québécois are not willing to take Carney at his word. The party tried and failed many times to change the bill's language to explicitly require Quebec's consent for any project within its jurisdiction. Don't know why they didn't just say provincial in that one, given it is a federal act. But again, had they succeeded with Quebec, then every other province could have made the claim, because why Quebec and not us in the act? Quote, the thing that was the most important for us is not in the bill, Barcelo Duval said after the meeting concluded. The Liberal committee members opposed these changes and the Conservatives abstained. So that's the one on which the Conservatives abstained. Liberal MP Will Greaves told Canada's National Observer the amendment is unnecessary because provincial jurisdiction is in the Constitution. Quote, any law that we pass is subject to the Constitution and the province's jurisdictions are the starting point. They don't need to be written into the bill expressly. And the Indigenous community had the same thing concerned with regard to UNDRIP. Why was UNDRIP not in there? It says, well, UNDRIP is already, the law of the land. It says, yes, but it's only in the preamble. It's not in the text of the bill. And UNDRIP was not on.
Well, I was just going to say it's the United Nations Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, just for those of you who might not know what the acronym meant.
Yeah. And UNDRIP is whatever act that made UNDRIP the law of the land here is not one of those 16 acts that are exempted. So I can understand the concern there. But with this one, because it's way up in the Constitution, yes, technically, legally, it would have been redundant. But I've never understood not including something in an act just because it's redundant, if it will give people peace of mind. Just give people peace of mind. The 8-hour committee meeting on Wednesday evening was marked by friendly exchanges, jokes, and laughter between Liberal Bloc Québécois and Conservative MPs, despite the Bloc Québécois' vehement opposition to the proposed legislation. The rare instances of unanimity resulted in smatterings of applause and cheers, with Conservative MP Shannon Stubbs exclaiming, I'm so used to fighting and losing. Well, usually it's because you bring stupid amendments and stupid amendments lose. So, But there were tense exchanges as well, particularly between Bloc Québécois MP Xavier Barcelou-Duval and Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominique Leblanc, who testified for 2 hours alongside Transport and Internal Trade Minister Chrystia Freeland and newly elected Liberal MP and Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations Rebecca Alty. Barcelou-Duval compared the sweeping powers in Bill C-5 to a, quote, disguised version of the Emergencies Act and suggested the federal government is taking advantage of the trade war with U.S. President Donald Trump to grant itself extreme powers. Leblanc balked at the comparison to the Emergencies Act and said the current situation is urgent from an economic standpoint. Through much interruption and back and forth, Barcelou-Duval fired back, quote, "We don't know that you will act in our best interest." And that's the whole point. Again, it's a trust me bill. The CPC and BQ voted in favor of an NDP amendment to add language about good paying unionized jobs to the preamble as well. So while the NDP did include an amendment, they didn't actually show up to watch, like this, because they don't have to vote. But Elizabeth May did, but they didn't. Interesting. And there's 7 of them and only 1 of her.
Wow.
Just saying. Elizabeth May did try to get the Species at Risk Act included as one of the ones that were exempted, but that did not happen, and I'm sure that did not happen with the help of the Conservatives. I would have a feeling. Also, like stuff like the Navigable Waterways Act and all that kind of stuff. So there were a lot of environmental acts. None of them are included at all in this. And again, the Navigable Waters Act would be certainly one that the Conservatives would have had no problem, putting on the chopping block, so to speak, because that's one of the ones that they gutted like crazy when they were trying to get TMX built. And I kept on wondering why Prime Minister Trudeau never never fixed that one. He just left it the way that the Conservatives left it when they were done. But yes, they tried to change what we defined, what the definition of a navigable waterway is, in order to make it easier to get that pipeline built. And still, with all of that, and having a Conservative government in Alberta and a Conservative government in Saskatchewan, they couldn't get 1 single inch done. And they're still talking like it's never happened under Trudeau.
Yeah, which is ridiculous because we know the truth.
Well, I mean, you can't have Danielle Smith bragging about, oh my God, we're making so much money. Look how great we are, if you don't acknowledge it actually exists.
Well, and the money you're making is shared amongst a few people. It's not. Come on. I mean, yeah, there's some people making a lot of money. Some people making scads of money. Oh, and right now I'd suggest if you can invest in oil.
Yeah.
Because it's about to go through the roof.
Yeah, probably.
With the Strait of Hormuz being blockaded, by Iran, which will slow trade down next to nothing. So yeah, now's a good time to buy oil if you can.
Yeah, and probably defense stocks too, but don't take any trading advice from us.
Well, I would suggest oil stocks and gold stocks if you can. Those are usually the solid things at a time like this.
Yeah.
I don't have the money to do it, so I won't be able to, but just...
So with regard to the Senate, it's on pause. There's a 2-day pause for Saint Jean-Baptiste Day because, they're not coming today, and then tomorrow will be Saint Jean-Baptiste Day itself. So along with being a statutory holiday in Quebec, it's also an optional day off for federal public servants in the province. So the upper house will start going through the fine print of the amendment bill on Wednesday. Although the legislation underwent a significant rewrite during its 2-day stint before the House Transport Committee, serious concerns over both the scope and application remain, particularly although by no means exclusively among Indigenous and First Nations communities, many of which are all but guaranteed to be raised during the final phase of its express trip through Parliament. In fact, senators have already clocked in a few days examining the bill during a series of extended committee-style sessions, with key ministers, senior officials, and expert witnesses on the floor of the chamber last week, clearing the way for it to begin third reading as early as later that same day. As per the order adopted by the Senate earlier this month, all votes required to dispose of the bill must be held by Friday afternoon at the latest, at which point it will be added to the queue to be signed into law. Also expected to secure royal sign-off before parliamentary business wraps up this September. The main and supplementary estimates, both of which are currently before the Senate National Finance Committee, and Bloc Québécois leaders Yves-François Blanchet's backbench proposal to prevent any future federal government from putting Canada's supply management system on the table during free trade negotiations. It seems that did pass the House. Bill C5 and Bill C6 and Bill C7, if I believe, if I remember correctly, did pass the House. And those 6 and 7 are the main estimates and stuff like that. 6 is the main estimates, I believe. But bills C2 and C4, which were causing a big problem, the Borders Bill and all those did not pass the House in this session. So they'll be back in September, which means that there's a lot of time over the summer, if someone wants to consult on those and to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
At least the estimates themselves have been passed, and those are the things that some conservative MPs have been saying. Can you believe, not knowing what you're voting for? And it's like, well, you knew what those things were because most of those were, determined before Parliament was going to rise. Before Parliament was prorogued,
Mm-hmm.
because those estimates would have had to been normally passed before the end of the year. They happened a little later this time around, but these are the things that every MP knew exactly what they were voting on. Voting to pass the GST cut on homes, the 1% tax cut, and to the formal cancellation of the consumer climate price that also did pass. That was one of the bills that passed. Those were the things with the Conservatives, if they were saying, well, yes, we're going to vote for these, but it's going to cost some money in the future, and we don't know how that affects the budget. On that one, they had a legitimate point, but not with regard to the estimates. Everybody knew what the estimates were. So the estimates passed, and so did, like I said, the 3 tax cuts that the Prime Minister said he wanted to have passed by July 1st. Those did pass as well. So pretty good amount of accomplishment for a short session.
Mm-hmm.
On the part of the government. Didn't get everything they wanted because they had hoped that C2 and C4 would pass as well by this time, but they were just way too problematic. Way too problematic. Hopefully there will be more work done on them over the course of the summer, so when we come back in the fall, then at that point, they'll be up for a serious rewrite and then go to committee at that point. All right. So the Prime Minister, Mr. Grizzly, will get the clips ready, had a press conference after it passed, and I watched it, and I'm not going to show all of it. I'm just going to show 2 clips from it. But the Prime Minister, I think, without saying it out loud, is very, very, very aware that how this happened is a big problem with regard to the relationship that Canada has with Indigenous communities. Because the near entirety of everything he had to say afterwards was explicitly touching on that issue. So, as someone who worked in this field, when you pass a bill like this, you're normally touting how great and how wonderful it is and everything that's going to happen. Here's what we're going to do next and all that kind of stuff and all the opportunities it opens. And there was a little bit of talk about that after that. But first, right, he was talking about how the concerns that Indigenous Canadians have raised with him. And there was basically, he talks for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then there's a Q&A session or something. There was easily about 7 minutes of that time that was dedicated specifically to the Indigenous question, and then a lot of the questions and answers as well. And in that, he shared his time with the Minister of Indigenous Services, Mandy Golnasty, which is rare. because usually when a prime minister has a big achievement like this, the prime minister usually takes the entire spotlight.
Mhm.
But he decided that he needed to share his time with the Minister of Indigenous Services, who happens to be Indigenous, to get the point across that, like, you really can trust us on this. So, Mr. Grizzly, if you would.
Through Canada's United Nations Declarations Act, federal laws are to be in alignment with UNDRIP and therefore respect the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. It's the right thing to do. The Major Projects Office, created by this bill, will have an Indigenous Advisory Council whose core function will be to honor Section 35 rights in the implementation. It will have First Nations, Inuit, and Métis membership and regional representation. We've already announced additional funding to support First Nations, Inuit, and Métis coming to the table to participate and to enhance capacity building in this new process, from participation in negotiations to project selection and development, and continuing to support those groups with nation building. I thank the ministers, Indigenous caucus, and leadership from across the country for sharing your perspectives and your sincere openness to getting this structure right. We all agree that more fulsome conversations are needed to select the nation-building projects and to determine the conditions that they must fulfill. In other words, the real work begins now. We will have those. Indeed, we must have them because the bill requires them. It takes time to build trust and to build shared leadership. That means building an economy where Indigenous communities participate fully in the national economy, where Indigenous microeconomies are not isolated but integrated into large-scale projects that connect communities to the national economy, creating more jobs and greater prosperity for all. That's why the first thing we will do to launch the implementation of this legislation in the right way is through full-day summits with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis rights holders, leadership, and experts. To that end, I will be meeting with First Nations rights holders on July 17 here in Ottawa, Inuit leadership in late July, and Métis leadership soon thereafter. I'll attend these meetings alongside the responsible ministers, which will include working sessions and public roundtables. Les Premières Nations et
Whoops, the thing went on. So then in French, the Prime Minister goes on to say in the notes, sorry, my flow here, say in the notes in French that dealing with Indigenous communities is important because they know the best path to follow for their future, for the future of their communities, and what a meaningful consultation means for their lands. It's important to me, him as the Prime Minister says. So I'm quoting him. So when I say me, I'm not talking about me personally here. It's important to me that to hear the right holders' concerns about their rights and their ambitions. To do so, we will have profound discussions. Minister Leblanc, Freeland, Galmasti, Alti, Hodgson, and others, as well as public service officials, will ensure that continued open and honest discussion between rights holders and the federal government will take place. So that's there. You'll notice that he mentioned those 3 one-days of consultations. I'm not convinced that 3 one-day consultation, even though it's at high level and all that kind of stuff, will be enough. I mean, there are 643 First Nations community alone across Canada. Now, if you put in the context that he says that, that all the ministers, the public service officials will ensure that there's continued open and honest discussion between rights holders and the government all throughout, because then maybe it's more those one day coupled with that are enough. But it just seems to me that, hi, First Nations communities, all 634 of you, you have one day.
Yeah. Seems to be a little bit of lip service.
Yeah. So these sort of consultation dates were not necessarily announced before this was happening. This has sort of come after. So There's some damage control. It's
Mhm.
not being presented as damage control. You'll see that the framing is like this is inherent to the bill, and it was in the bill all along, and here's how we're following up to. But those consultations were not announced before the bill. So,
And
and there's a philosophical point here that you can see from two sides, right? Um, if they really are full partners, you consult them about how they want to be consulted. So they should have been in way before. The other way you can see it is if we truly are talking about nation to nation, then the nation of Canada met with itself to determine what they're going to do and what they're going to present. And now they're saying, this is what we want to present to you, other nations. Other nations, how do you respond? Right? Because if when we're dealing with other countries, we don't always invite them to the table when we're drafting something. We draft something, then we present it. Right? And then we get reaction, make adjustments. So it depends how you look at it from a nation to nation perspective, right? If if we're treating them like other countries, then it might be natural that we didn't involve them earlier. But they are other nations within ours in a weird way because they are mentioned in our Constitution. So in that sense, you could say, well, why weren't they at that meeting in Kananaskis when provinces were presenting projects? Why wasn't there someone from the First Nations, from the Inuit, and from the Métis communities presenting their projects that they would like to have on the list? You can make a case for both,
Mhm.
but it seems that in this case, from those who are from the Indigenous communities who are sort of opposed, maybe having been at that table in Kananaskis might have avoided some of this that's going on now.
Entirely possible.
It's about when you bring people in, right?
Mhm.
All right, so the Prime Minister had a little more.
Yeah, just a sec here. I'll bring it right up.
Consultation, cooperation, engagement, participation are at the heart of this bill, C5. That is how we build our nation. Being a reliable partner to Indigenous peoples is not just about upholding the duty to consult. It's about enabling the creation of long-term wealth and prosperity for Indigenous peoples through full equity ownership. That's why we've already doubled the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program from $5 billion to $10 billion, enabling more Indigenous communities become owners of major projects. As Bill C5...
All right. So just that little, that's the point at which he moved to talking about more in general, how this will benefit the country. But in there, again, trying to make the point about consultation and whatnot being at the heart of this bill. So he talks a little bit for a couple of minutes about how this will affect all of Canada. And then that's where that conference normally would end, and he
Mhm.
would throw for questions and answers. But before he does that, Mandy Galmasti.
Let me just bring it up here.
Merci. And I would now like to ask Minister Galmasti to say a few words.
Bon après-midi, tout le monde. Hello. As the first Indigenous Minister of Indigenous Services, every day I work in partnership with Indigenous leaders to build strong and sustainable communities. Every facet of Indigenous communities are interconnected, from health to education to social wellness and to physical infrastructure. The prosperity of Indigenous communities is intertwined with the ability to ensure capacity building as part of investments and projects like those that are in the One Canadian Economy Bill, and that it will be made possible. Indigenous peoples belong and are in the rooms and at the tables where discussions happen and decisions are made. As part of this government, I know the importance of a relationship, and the Prime Minister has made it part of a critical path forward. Indigenous participation is essential and an important part of the fastest growing G7 country in the world. Ensuring that government moves forward includes upholding Indigenous peoples as part of it in their rightful place by determining it for themselves. Je suis la
Okay. Then she goes into French, saying, I'm the first Indigenous Minister of Indigenous Services, guided by the history of knowledge of Indigenous leaders who have preceded me. I am working to ensure their voices and concerns are heard at the highest level of government. As a member of the Indigenous Caucus, I am working directly on this to work for the prosperity of all of Canada. I am grateful to work next to my Indigenous colleagues across the country. Since the beginning, Prime Minister Carney has opened dialogue with us to ensure that we can share our knowledge and pursue the right path. And then she finishes up a little bit at 13:48. Mr. Grizzly, I'm sorry I didn't complete the timestamp on that one in the notes.
constitutional duty to consult, to engage nation to nation, and to serve Indigenous communities across Canada. We are advancing our shared priorities of social, cultural, environmental, and economic progress as we move forward on this path together with true reconciliation, because this is what Indigenous peoples want, and this is what Indigenous people, most importantly, deserve. Thank you. Miigwech, merci.
So interesting that so much time in that press availability before questions and answers were afforded to that, and again that the Prime Minister shared the stage with the Minister of Indigenous Services. So, like I said, if there was a blind spot going in, he's clearly aware of it now. He'd been told. Because this doesn't usually happen.
Well, and again, like I said, because he is not a politician, because he is a banker, a businessman, an international businessman, I think, and I could be way out in left field and completely wrong on this, but I think he appreciates the non-politics when it comes to this. People giving him the straight goods. This is what a business leader wants, is the straight goods. Politicians should want that too. Handlers oftentimes prevent that from ever happening. It's not the way with him. Will it continue to be this way? I certainly hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly hope so. And the way they're doing this, though, is the way it should be done. Unlike throwing rocks at somebody while they're campaigning or approaching them on a beach when they're on holiday with their family. This is how you're supposed to do it. Say it to their face, publicly, politely, diplomatically.
Yeah. Now, the bill itself, when it was voted on, was divided into two to have two votes on it, which was interesting because people had been asking for the bill to be split the entire time for the negotiating and the amendment clause, past the first one, the one that has, the removing the trade barriers and all that kind of stuff, we're good with that. And, and let's take more time to work on the second part. And there was no agreement for that, but there was an agreement for the other one. So for the portion that only had to do with free trade and labor mobility, that passed 335 yeas, 1 nay, and 2 votes that were paired. At the other one, however, with regard to the powers that the government was giving itself, was 306 yea, 31 nay, and 2 votes were paired in that one. So there were 30 more MPs that were voted against it, the second part of the act, than the first part. But because, of course, the Conservatives were going to vote in lockstep along with the federal government, there was nothing at risk by splitting it into 2 votes, really. It just allowed MPs to express their full thought on both sections of the act, which I guess is a good thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, ultimately insignificant
Mhm.
in terms of how it affects the passage of the bill. So yes, like I said, it's going to the Senate now, and there is one senator that we mentioned before who does have an amendment that they are going to propose in order to make it such that they'll get to discuss a few more things, and maybe that will that will give them a little more time. Now, of course, the Senate is not primarily, I won't say liberal, because the Senate is not divided into parties. There's the Conservative Party that still has not fully accepted that the Senate has changed, and there is one Conservative caucus, a small one. But given that most of the appointees to the Senate have been appointed by liberal prime ministers, there's probably not that great a chance that it will be stalled, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But again, if the Senate would like to be relevant and show that it can do the things that the House will not do, it could very well. At this point, there's a lot of people in the nation that would not be sad at all if they proposed an amendment and that it would have to go back to the House to be voted on in September, giving the summer to fix whatever's left that's wrong with the second part of the act. But given that the House already had the confidence to rise, I would interpret that as the Prime Minister being very, very certain that it is going to pass the Senate by Friday.
Mhm.
Or else they probably would have stayed there to get the amendment and then do whatever they needed to do and then send it back to the Senate before the end of the summer. So that's a bit of a telegraphing. It's nobody said it explicitly, but given that the House has risen, one could assume that the government made sure that they counted the votes in the Senate before doing that and had very, very good confidence that it was not going to be stalled or delayed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just yeah, or else it was sort of like walking in chin up, ass out, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, we passed it. That's all we got to do. Do. What? You passed an amendment? Crap. We have to wait till September,
Yeah.
right? And again, doing things at a speed faster than we've ever done before. Well, that would kind of
Mhm.
put a needle scratch in that record, right? That
A little
narrative.
bit. A little bit.
So,
I do have to go.
oh,
Uh,
okay,
it's 8:30. I have to go. Just before I head out, though, I
yes,
wanted to share very quickly something that just came across my feed, and it relates to a comment in the chat earlier, where I said we should look at investing in oil and gold right now if you can. And Saucy Sea Witch said I'm looking at investing in food. Well, this from MSNBC. Multiple Texas farms shut down after almost 100% of the workforce vanishes overnight.
yep,
That, my friends, we told you that would happen. We told you that would happen. It's
mhm,
happening. Farms are shutting down because they've got nobody to pick the crops.
yep. And I think we added to that. If you really want to drive it home to the American people, that your bill is not great. Wait until you can't find produce.
Well, once you can't find produce, right? Number one. Number two, beef is going to be astronomically expensive if you can get it.
Hmm.
Um, who's going to clean your pools and your yards and do your yard work? Who's going to take care of your children? Who's going to take care of hotels and restaurants? And you're getting rid of all the people that make your country work. You're biting off your nose, not cutting it off. You're biting off your own nose to spite your face.
Hmm.
It's unbelievable. We said this was going to happen. It's happening in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Lori Sue. It's not just in Texas; it's all over the country. I do know that. That was the feed that came across. So,
Yeah.
but I've heard it's happened. California is getting hit really hard right now.
Yeah. Mr. Grizzly, we're going to talk about Iran a little bit later on the show, and I know you had like one or two thoughts that you wanted to express before, so I'm just giving you the opportunity before you have to go.
Well, it's funny how Iran does not have nuclear weapons. There are two countries involved in this that do have nuclear weapons, and one of them that's used them. Who's the tyrant here, right? This is not good. I don't have. Look, Iran is not innocent. Iran, I should say, they are not innocent, but they are nowhere near ever having a nuclear weapon because, according to Bibi Netanyahu, they've been 2 months away or 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon for 33 years. He's been saying this for 33 years. So he gins up an idiot president who isn't very intelligent, clearly, and has him attack them with stealth bombers. I think they use 7 of the 22 that they have. They're valued at $2 billion apiece. Look, folks, I can't tell you how to think on this one because I don't know what to think on it. Sorry, Lola. I do know this. Yes, scary times. And you're right, Christian, this has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. Iran is nowhere near getting close to having a nuclear weapon. They don't have the computational power, the manpower, the engineers, or the experience to do it. It's not happening. It would take decades before they're ready because it's been 33 years. And they still... And why are they enhancing nuclear uranium? Because they know they're running out of oil. They're looking to power the European Union and Southeast Asia with nuclear power. And they're trying to lead the way. Are there people involved that have nefarious plans to try and enrich uranium to make bombs? I'm sure there are. But what's taking place right now, today, what happened over the weekend, this is the start of World War III. Because the minute Iran places an attack on the U.S., and they have said they're going to do it, because they have sleeper cells throughout the U.S., the minute that happens, they invoke Article 5 of NATO, and guess what? We're drawn into it as well. So this is World War III. It's just starting. Not a happy way to end my part of the show today, but I got to be real about it. It's upsetting. Don't let it get you down because there's nothing you or I can do to change it. There's nothing we can do to change it. So just go about your day as best you can. Remember to breathe. And you'll be okay. Yeah, straight over. Yeah. So this is where the price of oil goes up. Strait of Hormuz is being shut down by Iran. The Iranian parliament voted to close it. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. You use what leverage you have, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a hot mess.
Well, Jon Stewart on the Daily Show highlighted 30 years of Netanyahu saying they're 2 months away or 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon. And it was like literally going back to the early 90s.
Yep.
So
he's been wanting this all his life.
Yes.
All his adult life. So.
Well, and he wants this war because that means he gets to stay in power forever.
And out of jail.
Yes. Trump wants this war because he can stay in power because if there's a war ongoing, they don't hold an election. Elections are suspended. It's in their constitution. So, anyway, folks, I do have to go. I have a very anxious puppy by my side here who needs to go out.
Indeed.
Everybody take care. I will see you again real soon.
All right.
Bye.
We have a kit on the cover here with some updates here. The U.S. Embassy in Qatar is advising all American citizens to remain sheltered in place until further notice. It's going to... this is not good in any way, shape, or form. You have to have been living under a rock by now to have not noticed that the President of the United States decided to get the United States of America directly involved in what's going on between Iran and Israel. Wondering, is there any country that borders Israel that Israel has not attacked over the last little bit? That Netanyahu hasn't attacked over the last little bit. I have to say Netanyahu because I really have to distinguish between the country of Israel and the Israeli people and the actual guy in charge at the moment. And everybody has in the government with him that is pushing him to go to even more extreme lengths. But yes, the United States was at first assisting Israel in defending itself. I keep on noticing that everybody says Israel has a right to defend itself, but nobody's saying that Iran has a right to defend itself, which is kind of interesting. And what Mr. Grizzly was saying about two of the nations having nuclear weapons, again, if you include Russia as a backer of Iran, well, then that makes three, right? Trump had an address after they did that, and he said, a short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. I would like a fact check on that last sentence, that last paragraph, because I am not sure how the United States is able to determine that nuclear facilities and stuff, some of which might be very, very deep underground, have actually been reached without them actually having boots on the ground to go and check. So to declare it a spectacular military success and to say that the facilities have been completely and totally obliterated, I would not take that one to the bank right now, kids and cubs, at all. Professor Tim Snyder, the person who wrote the book on tyranny, who was teaching at a U.S. university until he saw all of this stuff happening and then came to Canada to be a teacher at the University of Toronto, professor at the University of Toronto, I should say, with the Monk School, said that there's 5 things to remember about war. And you can also transpose these, with some slight modification to the field of natural disasters and like big crimes like a manhunt or stuff like that when things happen. Like, for example, when they were looking for the man who assassinated, I can't remember now which one was this, who shot at the member of the legislature of Minnesota and his and her spouse. Again, I can't remember who's who. I'm so tired. I'm so sorry, kids and cubs. My brain is a little not functioning at great speed. So, but who shot at the representatives and their spouses and killing 2 of them. And we had a whole bunch of things about, he's a conservative, he was one of the liberal and whatnot. And all the, we had all these competing narratives and nobody knew which one was right. So he has 5 things to remember about war. 1, many things reported with confidence in the first hours and days will turn out not to be true. 2, whatever they say, the people who start wars are often thinking chiefly about domestic politics. Everything's been completely obliterated. It was a spectacular success. We got it all on the first try, though we have no boots on the ground to check. 3, the rationale given for a war will change over time, such that actual success or failure in achieving a named objective is less relevant than one might think. 4, wars are unpredictable. 5, wars are easy to start and hard to stop. So, things to remember with regard to that. Never believe any claims made about wars or, you know, anything about the suspect or their motivations when there's a manhunt, or how bad a natural disaster was and who was affected, unless you have seen it validated by several reputable sources over the following 8 to 48 hours after the first time you hear the claim. That's generally a pretty good rule if you want some media literacy. There's going to be that first statement, everything was completely obliterated. Uh, let's see what's still being said 48 hours from then. Let's see how many people are confirming it, that it has indeed been obliterated. Because I have a feeling that is not. The story's going to change a lot between now and then. In Trump's address, he goes on to say a whole bunch of other stuff, but he's saying now Iran must make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off legs with roadside bombs, blah, blah, blah. And then he keeps on going on afterwards. And a lot of that is, just propaganda and rhetoric and thanks to military and all that kind of stuff. It is true that Iran is not in a great position because I think their ability to defend themselves via air has been affected by the last time there was a bit of a skirmish between Iran and Israel, where the one that U.S. was not involved in, that happened a couple of months ago, where there were missiles fired and Iran fought back, and it seems that a lot of the capacity, Iran's capacity to defend itself, was affected. Iran is also affected by the fact that they no longer have state support in Syria. Russia is not economically as strong as it used to be and has its hands full with Ukraine. And a lot of their proxy groups have been damaged. Hezbollah has been damaged. The Houthis have been damaged somewhat. So it is true that Iran is in a particularly weak position at the moment. But as Timothy Snyder says in his point 4, wars are unpredictable. When someone is felt caged and cornered, it's not necessarily guaranteed that their first instinct will be to raise the white flag and surrender. Right? So there might be a lot to come yet. Now, with regard to this, there's a lot of people that are comparing this to what happened in Iraq some time ago under Bush and, Bush the second, I should say, in this case. And there's some jokes going on, some memes. No, this is totally different, right? This is the country that's name has an N in it, not a Q. So it's completely different. But basically, they're saying, hey, this country is on the verge of having a weapon of mass destruction, so we need to go in there. And, well, are they? Because according to sources, the vice president, the secretary of defense, and DNI advised against getting involved. That's interesting. And DNI, in this case, is the Director of National Intelligence, and that would be Tulsi Gabbard. So, yeah, the vice president, the Secretary of Defense, Hegseth, and the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, all advised against getting involved in this. And, Trump did what he usually does. when he gets information he doesn't like. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Friday that his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was wrong in suggesting there's no evidence Iran is building a nuclear weapon. Trump contested intelligence assessments relayed earlier this year by his spy chief that Tehran was not working on a nuclear weapon when he spoke with reporters at an airport in Morristown, New Jersey. Quote, "She's wrong," Trump said. Gabbard testified to Congress in March that the U.S. intelligence community continued to judge that Tehran was not working on a nuclear warhead. Trump's comments came as the president has said he would weigh involvement in the Iran-Israel conflict over the next 2 weeks. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has justified a week of airstrikes on Iranian nuclear and military targets by saying Tehran was on the verge of having a warhead. Gabbard's office has previously pointed to quotes from the spy chief saying that she and Trump were, quote, on the same page regarding the status of Iran's nuclear program. Iran denies developing nuclear weapons, saying its uranium enrichment program was only for peaceful purposes. A source with access to U.S. intelligence reports told Reuters that the assessments presented by Gabbard had not changed. They said U.S. spy services also judged that it would take up to 3 years for Iran to build a warhead with which it could hit a target of its choice. So 2 weeks versus 3 years. 2 weeks, and they're doing it, they're really doing it, to 3 years if they wanted to do it, but they're not. The narratives are wildly different, but we have a situation where U.S. intel itself is saying that not only is Iran not just 2 weeks away or imminently close to developing that type of weapon, but that is not even seeking to do so. And then Trump just dismisses it with the back of his hand, going, "They're wrong. I know better. They're wrong." Some experts, however, believe it could take Iran a much shorter time to build and deliver an untested crude nuclear device, although there would be no guarantee it would work. Trump has frequently disavowed the findings of U.S. intelligence agencies, which he and his supporters have charged without providing proof are part of a deep state cabal of U.S. officials opposed to his presidency. He appointed Tulsi Gabbard. So what, is Tulsi Gabbard now part of the cabal? He appointed Pete Hegseth and had an opportunity to get rid of him. And he's still there. So are they part of the cabal now? Speaking of Pete Hegseth, a lot of people are bragging, no leaks, no leaks, no leaks, like the guy had a properly sealed diaper this time around. Like that's an accomplishment. The Republican president repeatedly clashed with U.S. spy agencies during his first term, including over an assessment that Moscow worked to sway the 2016 presidential vote in his favor and his acceptance of Russian President Vladimir Putin's denials. Gabbard, a fierce Trump loyalist, has been among the president's backers who have aired such allegations. So, and here's another way you know that this might be bullshit, kids and cubs, because you would think in a normal administration, if the director of national intelligence had got it so wrong that a nation that is viewed as being the number one state sponsor of terrorism was only a few weeks away. Well, first of all, was intending to pursue a nuclear weapon and was only a few weeks away from being able to develop it, that getting that so wrong would result in them being, fired. But she's still there. And that's how you know it's bullshit. So yeah, congratulations, Trump. You just guaranteed a whole new generation's worth of Iran-U.S. hostilities with that one move. And columnist Tabitha Southey from the Globe and Mail, for whom I have a great amount of respect. But every now and then she has a way of putting stuff that keeps things real, that sends a shiver up and down your spine. Quote, "It's not just that the President of the United States has announced on social media that the U.S. has bombed Iran. It's that the President of the United States bombed Iran so that he could announce it on social media." When you think about it that way, makes you shudder, doesn't it? And I'm sure that there's not very many people in the DAMFAM who don't believe in a world where it's totally impossible that that would be the case. Sometimes it just has to have the right frame on it for it to hit you. Now, the Prime Minister was asked what he thought about this, and this is a tricky one for us as Canada. Again, morally, probably shouldn't be tricky at all. But as I keep on saying, when it comes to international affairs, never look to politics first for morality. And nations have interests, not friends. So it is probably not in our interest as Canada, given geography and who's down south of us, to make a full-throated denunciation of what has been done in the United States. So as the Prime Minister was on his way to board the plane to go to Brussels, well, this happened.
Mr. Carney, do you agree with the Americans' decision to bomb Iran, sir?
As you can see, he is walking to the plane with his wife and just walked by as that question is being asked. Just decided
Mr.
that,
Carney, do you agree with the Americans' decision to bomb Iran, sir?
Not gonna answer that one. And I can understand. He probably will want to have that meeting with his European and NATO counterparts before making a big statement on that. So at the moment, the only type of statement that we have, and it is probably really unsatisfactory because it is pretty thin. But the statement that we have here is that from Mark Carney, Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security, and Canada has been consistently clear that Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. While U.S. military action taken last night was designed, I have to open up. While U.S. military action taken last night was designed to alleviate that threat, the situation in the Middle East remains highly volatile. Stability in the region is a priority. Canada calls on parties to return immediately to the negotiating table and reach a diplomatic solution to end this crisis. As G7 leaders agreed in Kananaskis, the resolution of the Iranian crisis should lead to a broader de-escalation of hostilities in the Middle East, including a ceasefire in Gaza. Now, it has consistently been Canada's position over years that Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security. That is not a new statement from us, despite all intelligence stating that Iran is not pursuing a nuclear weapon. But yeah. So the Prime Minister didn't go anywhere outside the lines of anything that Canada has said previously. He's not meeker, he's not bolder. And the reason I'm saying that is because as a standalone, there's a lot of people that may go, but gee, that's weak in this say nothing statement. It's not meeker or bolder than anything that we've said before. So he's not pulling back from anything that we've said before, but he's not taking a step further either. Now, I am not sure how much a call to return to the negotiating table has any basis in reality as a means to move forward. One could make a case that because Iran is somewhat depleted in its ability to defend itself, and so are its proxy groups, uh, that there might be motivation for Iran to come to the table. Um, but as Iran itself is concerned, they're saying that they were already at the table. There were some negotiations going on. Trump had unilaterally put a 60-day limit by which he should have a deal, and on the 61st day is when Israel not Israel, the Netanyahu administration made the first attack, which the U.S. was there to provide support for when Iran retaliated, as one would expect it would. Apparently, there were meetings scheduled for 2 weeks from about then that Iran said it would be in attendance. Um, was Iran dragging its feet? How seriously were they participating in these talks? Those are legitimate questions. I have no insight into them. But where Iran is concerned is we were already at the table, and you did this. And this is after Trump having ripped up the deal that President Obama had signed with Iran. So there is no reason whatsoever for Iran to think that going back to the table is going to lead to anything that will be good for them. Because this man ripped up the first deal and he's not a man of his word. Now, this move from Trump might also have to do with all of the taco stuff and all the other things, right? He's weak. So this is an opportunity to show that he's strong, or what his version of strong is, because a lot of people are saying that, well, when America leads with strength, blah, blah, blah happens. I'm not sure that this is leading with strength. It's leading with force. It's leading with kinetic force, kinetic energy, kinetic violence, but I'm not sure it's leading with strength, because there's a difference between strength and force. Iranian state media is alleging that only 2 tunnels for entry and exit were destroyed at Fordo, and that Trump is exaggerating. Thomas Junot, who's a security and intelligence expert, former Department of National Defense analyst, you often see him on TV, who has a focus on the Middle East, says that this is unlikely to be true. 6 bunker busters could do more damage than this. But one interpretation is that by minimizing the damage, Iran is preparing the grounds to justify its lack of retaliation, because it knows that if it retaliates, it will be clobbered even more. So again, to what Timothy Snyder was saying, that the first government pronouncements are usually for domestic politics and domestic audiences. So if Iran is going on state TV and saying, they only destroyed a couple of tunnels, so, don't get mad, people of Iran, if we don't respond. That does fit. That is the narrative that one would put. So again, right? You can't believe everything that comes out in the first, all the hot takes. You have to wait to see how things develop, whether or not other media sources are saying it over a sustained period of time. So, de omnibus dubitandum, of everything doubt. It comes. Doesn't necessarily mean they're lying, but don't take it to the bank. Doubt. Reserve judgment. Wait until you see how the story develops and what gets repeated and what kind of just vanishes away after being said once or twice. So We had the Prime Minister's sort of response, not great. And then we have the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada's response, not the leader of the opposition, because he didn't win a seat. Allowing the genocidal regime in Iran to get a nuclear weapon would have been reckless. Well, it doesn't seem that anybody had intended ever to allow that to happen. And that it wasn't on the verge of happening, if we're to believe U.S. intelligence. American and Israeli actions to stop it from getting one are 100% justified. So he's going way further than the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister just said that the program has always been considered a threat. He's saying that it was justified 100% to take these actions to prevent them from getting a nuclear weapon, which hasn't been ascertained or proven that it is something that they were trying to do. Quote, hopefully the brave Iranian people will rise up and put an end to this appalling regime so that people can live in freedom and the world can live in peace. Pierre is hoping for regime change. That's going way further than the Prime Minister. And that's reckless. Our government must also protect Canadians from violence spilling into our communities at home and stop intimidation of foreign interference by the Iranian regime targeting Canada's Jewish and Persian communities. So yeah, I read that statement from Pierre and I think to myself, the Conservatives have never met a U.S.-led war, particularly one in the Middle East, that they were not just itching for us to join. Remember, this guy, and so did Stephen Harper, wanted Canadians to lose lives in Iraq. If he were Prime Minister today, I have absolutely no doubt that he would have us all in with Netanyahu and Trump already, when this is not our circus. So Canada, be very, very thankful that we cut him in that last election, because we would be knee deep in this already. We literally dodged bullets by not creating a situation where this guy could be Prime Minister. Your vote matters. Your vote really, really matters. Your vote last time might have been the difference between us being directly involved in this and not. Your vote matters. Now, when we're speaking about this, we do have to remember that when it came to Iraq, this is one of the moments that Canada showed that its foreign policy was indeed independent and different from the United States, because it was on March 17th, 2023, that Prime Minister Jean Chrétien received a standing ovation from his caucus after announcing Canada would not participate in a war on Iraq. May history rhyme this time. Not our circus. These are not good moments. In related news, kits and cubs, when it comes to this, because conservatives are such wonderful people who are consistent over time. There's another cut during that election who decided that, well, actually there were three, who decided that they would take a little trip to Israel during this particular time, despite the fact that the government of Canada issued warnings saying, don't go. Probably wouldn't be a good idea to go. But they went anyway. And then got upset that not enough was done to help them get out. Sorry, there was 2 of them, I think. Not sure. No, it was 3 MPs. Now, there were Canadian citizens there that are saying that, Canada has not done enough to get them out. And, Canadians who were already there and they were sheltering, you know, and trying to keep safe. And I actually have a friend that was there because, as you know, the government of Israel allows everyone a birthright trip to go and spend some time, and they were there as a result of that. So there are some Canadians here. They're saying the Carney government largely failed to help Canadian citizens safely and quickly exit Israel as Iran began its deadly bombardment of civilian areas late last week, according to 2 evacuees. 2 Canadians who spent several days sheltering intermittently in bomb shelters say they found safe passage via Birthright, an organization that brings members of the Jewish diaspora to Israel on a 10-day sponsored trip to learn more about the country. Quote, the messaging has been all over the place, Pierre Croute told National Post. What I can tell you for sure is that Birthright took it into their own hands completely to help Canadian students get out of Israel. So what was that? But Michelle Ferreri and Rick Perkins, I believe, I think there was one other person, the name escapes me at the moment, were there despite warnings saying not to go. But they had a trip that was sponsored, according to Global News, by the CIJA, I believe, which I'm trying to remember what the name of that group is specifically, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs. So they had sponsored a trip. Now, I'm not sure why Michelle Ferreri was on that trip because she is no longer an MP, whereas Rick Perkins is. But yeah, they were there, and it seems that Michelle Ferreri was not at all happy with the service that she received in terms of getting out. Interesting. So you were told not to go, and stupid government can't tell me what to do. So you went anyway. And then bad shit happened. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, why didn't Daddy come and help me after I did something Daddy told me not to do? Bad Daddy. Bad Daddy. I don't I just don't get these people. And then somebody then posted some video from June of Michelle Ferreri apparently trying to tell her constituents about how unsafe Peterborough is and how safe she felt in Turkey. So again, Turkey, a country led by Erdogan, also a tyrant, an Islamic nation, is a country that she felt more safe in than Peterborough, and now Israel. This is what I mean when they keep on trying to win the nanosecond, that they don't think about their statements over time. Michelle Ferreri, based on past statements, actually believes she is safer in Islamic-led Turkey than she was when she was in Israel and at home in Peterborough. This is not a serious person. This is not a serious person. And it's a good thing that we cut her. I do not understand this. Completely wanting to defy the government at every single turn. And then getting upset when the government doesn't save you from your stupid decision. She should not have been there. Perkins should not have been there at all. When they needed to get back, right? Those were seats on planes that could have been occupied by other people in order for them to get out. But their privileged butts were occupying them. According to the Canadian press, the federal government will help Canadians in Israel and Iran to fly home once they reach neighboring countries, Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand said on Thursday. Quote, "We are planning commercial options for Canadians in Israel and Iran to leave the region through certain neighboring jurisdictions," Anand told the Canadian press in an interview. With airports closed across the region, Ottawa has stationed consular officials on the other side of certain crossings on the Israeli and Iranian borders to help those fleeing either country to get home. The same applies for people who managed to leave the West Bank, Anand wrote on X, and said there are officials in Jordan, Turkey, and Armenia, while Azerbaijan is also allowing Canadians fleeing Iran to enter. Quote, "We have deployed additional consular services to aid Canadians who want to leave the region," she said. "We're looking at additional options, which include working with our allies." Canada has joined on allies in recent years to cooperate on everything from staging a military evacuation in Sudan to facilitating commercial evacuation flights out of Lebanon last year. Anand is urging Canadians in the region to register with Global Affairs Registration of Canadians Abroad database so that they can get the latest updates on ways to get home. Quote, "I am extremely concerned for all Canadians and will keep working on this file 24/7 to ensure their safety," Anand said. When asked whether she's calling on Canadians to leave the region immediately, Anand suggested otherwise. Quote, "We are assisting departures for Canadians who wish to leave, and we are here for you." Former Conservative MP Michelle Ferreri wrote on X that she is in Israel and the outreach so far is insufficient, arguing Ottawa should provide evacuation plans for leaving Israel. Another former Conservative MP, Rick Perkins, also appeared to be in Israel and had similar criticism of Ottawa. Quote, "The daily emails from your department are worse than useless and have never offered to find arrangements out of the country," he wrote to Anand on X. Canada this week urged its citizens to avoid all travel to Israel as the country exchanges missile attacks and airstrikes with Iran. Canada has advised against visiting Iran for years. Ottawa and most of its allies have repeatedly called for de-escalation while saying Israel has a right to defend itself. On July 13, Israel launched a surprise attack on Iran, which retaliated with missiles. The two countries have a history of trading small-scale attacks and acts of espionage and sabotage. So yeah, that's some information. If you happen to have friends and family who are in the area, to tell them to register with Global Affairs Registration of Canadians Abroad database so that the information can be given to them. But yes, two people who should not have been there, who should not have gone, who defied warnings, are complaining that the same government who told them not to go suddenly didn't do enough to get them back. It's not impressive at all. Oh, man. I tell you, I don't understand conservatives. I try to understand them so that I can see where they're coming from in case that there's something legitimate in there, because I don't dismiss them out of hand. But my God, come on. Like, help yourselves. I don't know, man. I don't know. In other news, kids and cubs that may be of interesting, we actually have a little bit of news from the north, which is rare for us. But kits and cubs, there is a new premiere in Yukon. Again, I thought it would take a little longer to have a leadership vote from the time that Raj Pillai had stepped down, because I was going to plan to look for some information and tell everyone, how it is that they can register and vote and all of that kind of stuff. But it would seem that all of that has happened already very, very quickly and efficiently, and that Yukon now has a new leader. Mike Pemberton is his name. This is according to Dana Hatherley of Yukon News. Members of the Yukon Liberal Party have elected Mike Pemberton as their new party leader and the Yukon's next premier. Only 13 votes separated Pemberton from rival candidate Doris Bill, according to the results released by the chief returning officer. More than 1,000 members were registered to vote in a leadership convention on June 19th. 442 ballots were cast for Pemberton, while Bill received 429 and 2 ballots were spoiled. The party crunched the numbers late on June 19th. Pemberton took 50.63% of valid votes, while Bill got 49.14%, according to a press release posted on the party's website. Quote, "The event reflected strong engagement and momentum as the party looks to the next election," reads the release. Before polls closed at 8 p.m. at the Sternwheeler Hotel, each candidate made a speech to the room. Pemberton pledged to build partnerships, listen, and to support one another to help Yukoners thrive. Quote, "We're all here because we believe in a future that delivers for Yukon families, communities, and businesses. We believe in a future that delivers a balanced economic, social, and environmental priorities. We believe strongly that our words do not define us, our actions do." Pemberton has lived in the Yukon for more than 3 decades and operated several businesses, including Signature Home. He has chaired the Yukon Development Corporation and has served on the board of directors of the Yukon Energy Corporation. Pemberton was also president of the Yukon Community Crime Stoppers Association for nearly a decade. His involvement with the Liberals at the territorial and national level is extensive. In his victory speech, Pemberton thanked the 8 governing Liberal MLAs, including the Premier, who was on his way out the door, as well as his wife, daughters, and adopted son. He said it was an honor to run against Bill, who he made clear is his friend. The outcome of the vote provides an opportunity to keep building on a, quote, "foundation of a strong leadership and First Nation partnerships and show off the territory's, quote, strong track record of economic growth under the Liberals," as per Pemberton's words. Pemberton said he will build on the movement and address the fast-changing world around Yukoners and, will face the... I'm tripping over my tongue today. Pemberton said he will build on the movement and address the fast-changing world around Yukoners head-on, given the party's record pulling through tough times like the COVID-19 pandemic. Quote, "An election is coming and there's hard work and new challenges ahead, but there's good news," he said. Hard work, that's what we do. Hard work is what we've always done. Hard work has been happening for the last 8 years across the territory, and we want to continue. In an interview with the Yukon News during the campaign, Pemberton said he won't make any major moves that would disrupt the people running the Yukon right away. He committed to a community safety program on day one. The results of the June 19 vote confirmed Pemberton will be the party leader and premier designate. The premier designate will officially take over the premiership upon being sworn in. Current Premier Raj Pillai is vacating the role. Neither candidate has a seat in the legislature. Both candidates told Yukon News they would run in the next territorial elections for a seat in the Yukon Legislative Assembly. Pillai, who announced on May 7th that he will step down once a new leader is named, indicated the party needs fresh ideas and a new voice to lead the party through the end of its term and into upcoming territorial elections. Pillai was acclaimed in January 2023 in an uncontested leadership race after former Premier Sandy Silver announced his resignation in 2022. Yukon Party leader Curry Dixon congratulated Pemberton and gave a nod to Bill in a statement issued shortly after Liberals in the room learned about their new leader. Quote, "Pemberton is a longtime Yukoner and businessman who I know will turn his full attention and experience to work for the Yukon." Dixon recognized the difficult decision to enter politics given the political climate. Quote, "With increased public scrutiny and time away from family, the sacrifices are many, but our democracy requires that dedicated citizens answer the call to serve our communities," Dixon, the official opposition leader, said. "At the end of the day, we all have one goal, making the Yukon a better place to live, work, and play. Elections in the territory must be held on or before November 3rd. So it's going to be a very short runway for this new leader to get themselves known by the public before the election. But there we go. New leader of the Liberal Party in Yukon, Mike Pemberton, and November 3rd will be the provincial election in which he will try to secure a seat. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you loved listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We appreciate it when you do, and especially when you share our content and you leave a little word of your own with it. Thank you so much for all of those who've been doing that. And we've seen that a lot of you have been doing it even more recently. And the nice things that you say about us really do warm our hearts. So thank you so very much. Now, if you are a kit or a cub who is on the go and very busy and doesn't necessarily have time to sit down and watch the show, well, take us with you because we are portable. If you scan that QR code that has just appeared, made available to us, thanks to the generous support of the Ray Girl, that will bring you to our pod page, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver. If you happen to be listening, that's where you go to. And if you click subscribe, you are registered to receive our podcast feed. It comes directly to your favorite podcast server. You do not even have to go looking for it. We make it very simple. So that way, when you're on the go, you can just put us in your ears and take us along with you. If you happen to be listening to us on podcast and would like to give us some stars and reviews to help us with the algorithm, please do. It helps us a lot. Thank you. If you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, well, how about heeding the call of Kits Cassie and Kits Elaine, who are beckoning you to the True North Eager Beaver YouTube page. Grab your e-surfboard and hang 10 to go there. And while you are there, hey, maybe click on our buttons, like, share, subscribe, and DAMFAM. If you're with us now, remember, if you smash with our buttons now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave, as Kit Elaine often says. So give our buttons a little tickle. It makes us happy when you do. And it also helps us with the algorithm. So thank you very much. If you would like to help us in yet another way, we do incur some financial costs to bring this show to you. And if you would like to help us with those, we would be very, very grateful for your assistance. That QR code that has just appeared will bring you to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where every day, day in and day out, we fight the scourge that is dry beaver. Because a moist beaver is a happy beaver. So if you would like to do your part to keep your favorite beaver moist, then just scan that QR code or go to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, and drop a little bit of coinage in there. When it hits the bottom, not only does it make a lovely cleaning sound, but hey, it also provokes a warm fuzzy. So that's always good. And it also makes you 17.8% more interesting at social gatherings. So, not a bad thing. Thank you for all of your support, Kits and Cubs. It really does mean the world to us. And when you write to us to either share your thoughts and opinions or to make a donation, please know that everything goes back into the show. Speaking of writing to us and donating to the show, if you would like to donate to the show because you're buying Canadian and would want to bypass the USCE Tech Bros, then sending your donation as a direct bank transfer to True North Eager Beaver @gmail.com is how you can do so. Your transaction's 100% Canadian, and we also get the benefit of getting 100% of your donation. But True North Eager Beaver @gmail.com is also the address at which you can write to us to send us your thoughts about the show or story tips, things that you would like us to cover, suggestions for guest interviews, questions that you would like us to answer for a Q&A episode. All of that just goes right there. Please let us know what you think because we really do love it when you write to us. And again, that you take the time to write to us. It means that you've thought of us. And again, it requires some effort. So we are very, very happy. We're touched every time that you do that. So thank you for being in touch with us and letting us know what you think. It's your show too. So we would like to make it better for you with each and every day. So your input helps with that. Now, if you would like to write to us via our socials, at True Eager, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and also on the Jitter is where you can find us. Also, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, which is our original home on the web. And of course, if you happen to be listening on YouTube, either live with the DAMFAM or later, right down here in the comments section, leave us a little something. We read everything that you send us, even though we're not necessarily able to respond to everything. And then we thank you for the time that you take when you do that. Kids and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Today is by-election day in Alberta. 3 by-elections going on, and you may want to give a little vote if you are happening to live in the area, and if you happen to not have done so earlier by early voting. But yes, today you get to vote, I believe. Let's see here. We got CBC in Edmonton Ellerslie, Edmonton Strathcona, and Old Didsbury Three Hills. And one of those ridings is the one in which Naheed Nenshi, the leader of the Alberta NDP, is running in order to gain access to a seat in the legislature here. In Edmonton Ellerslie, there are 6 candidates on the ballot to replace Rod Loyola, who stepped down as an NDP MLA in March to run in the federal election. Naresh Bardwaj from the UCP, Gurtesh Singh Brar from the NDP, Caroline Curry from the Alberta Party, Pamela Henson from the Wildrose Loyalty Coalition, Fred Munn from the Republican Party of Alberta, and Manpreet Tiwana from the Alberta Liberal Party. This is a diverse and fast-growing suburban riding in southeast Edmonton, which includes parts of Millwoods, Ellerslie, Summerside, and rural properties north of Beaumont. The area has a large South Asian population, and a provincial government riding profile says the second most spoken language in the district is Punjabi. In Edmonton Strathcona, it's a core area riding on Edmonton's south side and has been the home turf of 2 Alberta NDP leaders, Raj Panu and Rachel Notley. Past Premier Notley resigned the seat 6 months ago after stepping down as party leader last year. Naheed Nenshi, who was mayor of Calgary for 11 years, is hoping to be the next party leader to represent the riding. He is one of 6 candidates, along with Ravina Chan from the Republican Party, Darby Ray Crouch from the UCP, currently the Agriculture Press Secretary, Samuel Petrov of the Alberta Party, Don Slater of the Alberta Liberal Party, and Jesse Stretch from the Wild Rose Loyalty Coalition. And then in Old Didsbury Three Hills, which is a provincial riding of the profile says is a mostly rural district, which straddles Highway 2, says slightly more than 50% live within its boundaries. With a lengthy history of MLAs from conservative-leaning parties, the riding also includes Carstairs, Crossfield, Trochu, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, because I see that and I want to pronounce it French-wise, and Irikana, along with the communities in its name. After a decade of representing the riding as a wild rose, then UCP MLA Legislature Speaker Nathan Cooper resigned last month to become Alberta's representative in Washington, D.C. There are 4 candidates hoping to replace him. Cameron Davies of the Republican Party of Alberta, who's also the leader of the party, and he put out a tweet lately about the curriculum in Alberta, which kind of indicated that he is extremely unfamiliar with it. So probably not your best choice. Tara Sawyer from the UCP, Beverly Toes of the NDP, and Bill Tufts of the Wild Rose Loyalty Coalition. By-election polling stations will be open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Monday. Canadian citizens who are at least 18 years of age or older on the date of the election are eligible to vote if they are resident of one of the 3 electoral divisions. Elections Alberta does not plan to use vote tabulation machines for counting, a spokesperson said. Elections Alberta is expected to release unofficial vote results on Monday night. Official results will be published on July 3rd. Yes, we'll have some by-elections to tune into, and we'll have some preliminary results, I guess. Well, not completely certified results, but we'll have an idea who will be occupying those seats. And we'll be able to present that news for you tomorrow. So please do take a chance to go vote, because, and please, if you have friends with you, bring them, because friends do not let friends do democracy alone. So please do go and vote. Words of wisdom, Mr. Grizzly is in the right vein there. There's a lot going on. Things are getting dark. Things could take a turn. and there is not much that we can do about it. So do try to have the best day you can, despite the fact that there are darker clouds. Kids, it can be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And well, now it's time for the audience participation. So, kids and cubs, if you will, on the count of three, one, two, well, actually, I should say what I need you to do before I count to three. On the count of three, I need you all to say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. In one, two, three. Oh, such sweet, sweet music. How can I deny you? You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, we have some Easter egg stuff for you. There's been a lot going on. So first of all, as I saw in the chat, happy birthday to Kit Dan's grandma, I believe it is. There you go, still going strong. Hope it was a beautiful one. A belated happy birthday to Kit Hugh, whose birthday was on the 13th. For some reason, I missed it, and I don't know why, because it's the same date as my Beaver Mama's birthday. My Beaver Mama is no longer with us, of course. But yeah, that's a date I should remember. So happy belated birthday to Kit Hugh. And we have a birthday coming up, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if I saw in the chat, Kit Jillian will be having a birthday on Wednesday, I believe. And I believe that the day after, we will have another day because Kit Saucy will be going to the hospital to have her little bundle of joy come into the world as our most recent kit. And a kit who literally will be, well, not literally be a kit because not a baby beaver, but beaver. It will still be a human baby. But yes, the newest kit to join the DAMFAM will be happening on that day. So for everyone that is celebrating, may your celebrations be joyous and saucy. May everything go very, very, very smoothly. I've been reading through the chat, and I know as as you're coming next to the date, it's like, just date, get here, please. So I see you, I see you, I see you, and yes. I also saw that thing about maybe having to hand the wrench to someone for a while as you and baby, as you recover, of course, and you and baby have a chance to start bonding. So hopefully there will be arrangements made for that this week. But yes, thank you for everything that you do for us. And we just cannot wait at all. And if I remember correctly, I think Saucy has already picked a name. Is that right, Kitlinda M? Is it Oberon? I have Kitlinda M naming, putting here Kit Oberon. So I don't know if that's exactly it. It's been determined already, or if that's just speculation. But I'm sure Saucy will confirm with us here. And of course, Kit Hyperty, congratulations on the new job. Well done. So glad that it allows you to spend some time with us a little bit while you're on the way there. things that have gone on in the world with some Canadians that have made us proud, kids and cubs, over the course of the weekend. There has been a lot. First of all, Canada's national cricket team has qualified for the World Cup of Cricket. Happening this summer, I believe, in June. The men's cricket team, as you may be aware, that cricket has just been added to the list of Olympic events for the games. I think the games in Los Angeles coming in 2028. It had been part of the Olympics way back when, in the early 1900s, I believe, but it is returning. And Team Canada was playing in a qualifier with the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, and Bahamas, 2 games against each of the nations, and Canada won all of its matches to qualify and advance to the World Cup. So Canada is now officially a cricket nation. So there you go on the world stage. For those of you who follow the NBA, I think it was the day before last, Game 7 took place, and it was a very, I believe, for the Oklahoma City Thunder, if I have the name of the team correctly, winning the championship of the NBA against the Indiana Pacers in the final. So that was particularly important where Canada was concerned because it was the NBA final matchup with the greatest number of Canadians competing at one time. I think there were 2 on either side. So congratulations to the team, and congratulations to the Canadians who were part of the team who made it so that the championship could come. So Oklahoma City Thunder won, and it wasn't the day before last, but I believe that was last night. 103-91 victory there, and again, some Canadians who made us proud all around because it went to 7 matches, and it was some good basketball from everyone. For those who follow the AHL, it will be a Game 7, I believe, as well in this series, if I am not mistaken. Be Game 6, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, yes, Game 6 with the Abbotsford Canucks versus the Charlotte Checkers, and the Abbotsford Canucks could seal the big prize with a victory tonight. In basketball as well, Team Canada, the women's under 16 and under team, was playing in the big final against the United States of America. So, everybody has an idea, and right off the talking basketball. So they won silver. But big congratulations to the team, just as our men did, or the boys, depending how you want to call them, under 16. Both of them went to the Americas tournament, and both of them took silver, losing to the States in the final. So good results for our basketball program. Of course, there's a World Cup 3-on-3 tournament going on in Mongolia as well, where the men and women both have a team there. The women's team is a little different because usually they're a team of 4, and there's twins on the Canadian women's team, but both of them are not able to play this time. So both teams are, the women's team is a little rejigged from the team that finished 4th at the Olympics, but there'll be some lots to cheer on there for people who like 3-on-3. If you've never seen it, it's much more fast-paced and shorter matches, and hopefully that will happen. Hopefully Team Canada will do very well there as well. And the qualifications for Wimbledon have started. The men are on the courts today in qualification. The women's draw will be unveiled later on today, but we have 2 Canadian men in the draw. The first one is Alexis Galarneau, who won his match this morning in 3 sets and advances to the second round. There are 3 rounds to qualify for the main draw. And the second Canadian is Liam Drexel, who will be participating in his first Grand Slam qualification draw. So we wish good luck to him. Hopefully we'll have more Canadian men in the main draw once these 3 days of competition are over. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I have for you. So have a most beaverific day, and we will see you tomorrow. All right. And now I need to do that little sign off, and I'm gone.